Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Hancock, and along with my better clock managing friend Patrick Curran, we make up Quantitude. We're a podcast dedicated to all things quantitative, ranging from the relevant to the completely irrelevant. In today's episode, I try to ambush Patrick by bringing back our popular feature, Pop Quiz. This time with a statistical acronym theme, only to pretty much get crushed by him in the end. Along the way, we also mention, wow, that's fantastic, QR codes and octogenarians, questionable rectum, catharsis, grassy knolls, petards, Sean ringtones, pity minutes, apologies to Roy Levy, bad clock management, asteroid Roombas, pitching beach balls, statistical sock puppets, and the DIC talk. We hope you enjoy today's episode.
Hang on, just a second.
Jeez.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Finally.
Okay, this is kind of a weird episode.
Well, I appreciate you supporting me and showing up.
The text message that I got last night. Now, we were going to talk about another topic, and I got a text from you that I'm going to read here. Hey man, got an idea for an episode. Just show up. I'll do the rest.
Yep. I sent that text to Patrick, and he was uncharacteristically supportive. I just got a, wow, that's fantastic message back.
That's how you interpreted WTF?
That's just you being supportive. Anyway, okay. So I am going to tell you a story that we never talked about, but it has to do with the last time that I visited you in North Carolina. When was that? Was that spring?
Oh, I've repressed it. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I felt something. So I came down, I hung out at your house, I gave a talk to your faculty, you flipped me off during the talk.
Oh, I remember that. Okay, sure.
There you go. Yeah, I thought that would fire a neuron. And then you invited me to something special. Do you remember what you invited me to?
Oh, dude, I don't even remember you coming down.
Okay. It had to do with you in the park. Does that ring a bell?
I swear to God. Okay,
really,
folks,
I need to be more specific.
None of this is scripted, straight up. I have no idea what's going on.
The last time I was there, you were part of a concert that was being performed in a park. Yeah.
Oh, it was like it was yesterday.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, my band. I'm in a big concert band, and we had a spring outdoor concert that I was actually overseeing. Okay, I remember. You know, a day doesn't go by where I don't think how special it was.
Okay, good. So you invited me to this. I was very excited because I have never heard you with your group, and I got to meet Sean, which was very cool. Anyway, so you told me that I could help you when we went to this thing. Do you remember what you needed my help with?
My recollection is that we had the program and I was busy doing other stuff, and so I had you hand it out.
Yeah, that's close, except it wasn't actually a program that I was handing out, and there wasn't actually a whole lot of copies of this. There were a few copies of a QR code. Do you happen to know the average age of the people who were on the lawn for your concert?
It's elevated.
The average age was in the 70s and 80s, and what you actually asked me to do was to go around, and every octogenarian that came in, you asked me to help guide them with a QR code to pull up the program on their phone. Almost every single person was like, wait, what? And I said, okay, do you have a phone? Now, first of all, they had all kinds of different phones, including like 1998 flip phones. So I taught like 25 people how a QR code worked. It was just the most frustrating thing. So there was this one guy, and he goes, well, I've seen those codes. How do they work? And I'm like, I don't know exactly how it works, but there's like a grid with so many possible combinations, and your camera reads it, and then it takes you to some website that has whatever it is we're looking for. And then he goes, how does the camera recognize it? And I'm like, I don't actually know. Then this just really irritated him. He goes, isn't this your job? I said, well, actually, my friend up there who's playing the trumpet, he just asked me to come here and hand out programs, but I didn't know that I was doing this QR code. And then he says, well, I hope he knows what he's doing. Never told you about all of this.
I didn't know any of that.
I know, because I had to go to the airport or something right after, and we didn't have a chance to talk about it. And then he hit me with the last question. well, can you at least tell me what QR stands for? And I'm just looking at him. I had no freaking idea what QR stands for in QR code. And so I ask you right here, right now, can you tell me what QR stands for?
Questionable rectum.
It is a quick response code.
I was going to get there eventually.
I'm sure you, yes. That is what I remember about your performance.
Not my solo.
I remember none of that.
So is that the episode? Are we done? This is refreshingly short.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
So it reminded me of a bunch of things. One is how you put me in that position, and I never really got a full catharsis of getting over this. Is that the right word? I never took psychology.
That is a very good word. And
okay.
I did not know that you had suppressed this amount of rage for this length of time.
Oh, you have no idea. And then, well, I mean, it was a time of nostalgia and reflection on this wonderful time that we shared. And it also made me think of some other times that we have shared. In particular, you know what we haven't done in a long time?
Oh, God, you're not going to...
Pop quiz, baby! It's back!
You bastard.
You wouldn't let me do it last year.
You suck.
You ready? You prepared?
This is like coming to my own assassination.
Hang on, I'm not on the grassy knoll yet. And I realized that I have just violated a trust and I may never get it back.
Oh, dude. That train pulled away from the station years ago.
All right.
You can't imagine I trust you.
You're stalling. All right. So there's a special theme to this episode.
Oh, God.
Here's the theme. It is acronyms. So just like QR code is an acronym, I'm going to throw some acronyms at you, and you got to tell me what they are. And the standard time we've done before, 1 minute. In fact, previously we had done 1.5 minutes. I did not remember this, and I believe this was the start of my downfall. Hoisted with my own petard, as they say. I am going to set my timer. Please hold.
Dude.
I wish everybody could see the look on his face. This is someone who prides themselves on being in control, and he looks uncomfortable, and I like it.
This is some deep-seated payback, and a big part of me admires that. Like, a lot of effort went into this.
All right, I have my timer set. Are you ready?
Do I have a choice?
No, you don't. Okay.
Wait, so the theme is acronyms.
I'm going to throw an acronym at you, and you have to tell us what it stands for, first of all. And within that minute, then you also have to explain what it is. I'm excited.
I hate you with the passion of 1,000 suns.
You got to pay back. Revenge.
Okay, here we go. Timer is set.
Folks, literally my heart rate is elevated right now.
You can see it too. It's great. You locked in?
As good as it's gonna be.
All right. Your first acronym is GEE. Go.
Oh, jeez. GEE, Generalized Estimating Equation. It is a method for fitting models to data that have correlated residuals, clustered or longitudinal. So the GLM, traditional, is like continuous and normal, and independent residuals, and generalized linear model lets you have discrete and different response distributions, but it also assumes independent residuals.
30 seconds.
And GEE incorporates this really cool thing called a working correlation matrix, and it estimates the residuals and allows off diagonals, and then you get robust standard errors, and it accounts for clustering, and it makes less assumptions than multi-level models because you don't have random effects, but you have population average. That's the biggest important part, is it's a population average model. What in God's name is that?
In the spirit of the musical event that precipitated this whole thing, I had Sean send me a recording because I needed...
Don't you dare.
I needed a really good trumpet recording, so I had Sean do it.
For listeners who are not familiar, Sean and I play trumpet together, and we have for years. We're in a brass quintet, and we perform around town. He's first trumpet, and I am second trumpet. And Sean represents what is so lovely about life, which is I practice and practice and practice, and I get better and better and better, but I'm never as good as Sean.
No, I wasn't able to pick up much of the performance, but his ability came through really clearly.
Really, because I was the one who had the solo and not Sean.
That was really what sealed the deal for me, was your solo. Okay, well, in all fairness about GEE, I threw that at you because I frankly don't know a ton about it. And the nice thing is that after your answer, I don't know a ton about it.
Really, I'm shocked.
But I want to know more about it. I mean, you gave me some edges of things, and I know that we talked about it a bit when we had Dan McNeish on. It really seems like something that we could unpack a little more. I don't know if you have anything you wish you could have shoehorned in there in the time.
Well, maybe I shouldn't have said population average 4 times in a row, but it's a really important point, and I wanted to reiterate it. I love GEE, and the reason is it is yet another quintessential Coors Light Green Day garage project. The multi-level model brings on random effects and makes assumptions about distributions of random effects. You don't estimate random effects or residuals. You estimate the parameters that govern those distributions. GEE says, screw that. It's going to fit the model. It is literally going to obtain the residual estimates and literally make a correlation matrix out of them. It's called a working correlation. And then you redo the model incorporating that in, and then you update the working correlation matrix, and then you redo the model. It's called iterative reweighted least squares. And you just go back and forth and back and forth. And then it really is just like a shock absorber. When things aren't changing anymore, you take your parameter estimates. You don't give 2 hoots about the random effects because they don't exist. That's what I was meaning about population average, is there is not individual variability in the magnitude of this effect. It's just, here you go, guys. It's 0.48.
Yeah.
That's a whole conversation on its own. And McNeish has advocated for these in some situations where the underlying assumptions of the MLM are not well supported or suited. And I totally agree.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk about that on another day when you're not a giant wiener and attack me like this. I gotta tell you, in the spirit of being a giant wiener, I'm setting my clock for 60 seconds.
Okay. Bring it on.
Oh, I am. Now, because you ambushed me and I didn't get a chance to have Sean record something and be prepared, in post-processing, I'm going to put in my own special little ringtone.
Okay.
So you're going to have same deal, 60 seconds. I'll let you know when it's up.
I do like that you would have gone to Sean to have a ringtone.
No, what part of Sean being better are you not understanding? All right. Are you ready? I don't care, actually. I don't know why I asked that. I don't care. Here we go. Case. C-A-C-E.
Oh, God. This is... are we going?
Wow, that's 7 seconds.
Okay. All right. Complier average causal effect, I think. There are other names for this thing. So the idea, as I recall, is that in RCTs, randomized controlled trial designs, think about it, you have a classic treatment group and a control group, and what we always teach is that we will compare the mean of the treatment group to the mean of the control group, and ta-da, that will tell us about the effect of the treatment. But the fundamental problem, as I recall, is that people are assholes. And that is they don't always do what you ask them to do. The people in the treatment group, some of them don't take the treatment. Imagine it's a drug that they don't take. And then some people who are in the control group sometimes find a way to take the treatment. And that winds up biasing your ability to tell the difference, or to tell the difference between the groups or what the treatment effect is. So you have to find a way to... That was it?
You didn't even start addressing the acronym until 23 seconds.
I didn't know it had started.
I said go, and you said, oh, okay.
All right. Fair. What I would have said...
You started this, you miserable piece of shit, and you're going to hold up your hands and say, okay, fair, that's fair.
All right.
I'll tell you what, because you let me talk about GEE a little bit, I will give you a pity minute that's not timed to actually address the acronym.
Okay. All right. I don't think I need a whole minute. So when you compare the treatment and control means, the difference between those is going to be biased by the people who don't comply. The people people who are in the treatment but don't take the treatment, and the people who are in the control who find a way somehow to get access to the treatment. So what you need to do is figure out what the treatment effect is just for those people who have complied, which is way easier in the treatment group to figure out who has taken their meds and who hasn't, for example. It's very hard in the control group sometimes to figure out what the proportion of people is who have and haven't done the treatment. And so there are different statistical approaches. There's if I remember, an instrumental variable approach to do it. And the one that I like a lot is a mixture modeling approach, where you just assume that you are dealing with these different classes of people. They're like weird names, bad names, I think, like defiers and always takers and never takers, things like that. Trying to figure out who's who, or at least infer a model where you can sort through those things to get an unbiased complier average causal effect. Anyway, that was probably more than my courtesy minute that I said I didn't need in the first place.
It was not a courtesy minute. It was a pity minute.
A pity minute. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Still worth it. And here we go with your second one.
Oh.
Come on, you know how this works now.
Okay, I'm on board.
Second one is, let me get the timer ready.
You're enjoying this, aren't you?
I am. Here we go. I don't even think I know what the acronym stands for, which is fine. It is ZINB.
Ooh.
Go.
Okay, I actually like this one.
Oh, we could change.
ZINB.
We could change.
ZINB. Zero inflated negative binomial. It is a discrete probability response distribution. I actually have used this in my work because it's really good for adolescent drug and alcohol use. So it's a probability distribution for a discrete count, but it allows for over dispersion. So Poisson assumes a mean and a variance is the same. ZINB, or the negative binomial, allows the variance to be bigger than the mean. And then you have a piling up at zeros, and the zero inflated is some of those are structural zeros, like they never drank, and some are zeros where they just didn't drink within your assessment window. And you can build a model to separate those zeros and a different model to separate the count process, and you can literally have different predictors and stuff. It is extremely cool distribution. All right.
So now I have to say, I thought that was a really good answer.
He says with surprise.
No. But, when you and I teach stuff, and you and I have taught stuff for decades, there are certain things that come out of our mouth with a flow, like a person doing stand-up who has told the same joke 300 times. I heard a rhythm in that explanation, like you have given a version of that explanation before. Is that true?
It is. I got lucky on that one.
Okay.
Because I've actually done a fair amount of work using the ZINB distribution. And again, it's really well suited for rare events that are counts. And so if you think about like drug use in children or ER visits or something like that, it's like right in a sweet spot for some of the stuff that I've worked with over the years. And why I kind of had that at my fingertips is I work with a wonderful research group up in Pittsburgh, and it's headed by a good friend of mine, Brooke Molina, who is a wonderful friend and an amazing researcher. Mm-hmm. And she uses this all the time. And it's confusing as poop, because you have a Poisson that's a distribution for counts, but it assumes the mean and the variance are equal. You can have a zero inflated Poisson, which is a zip, and that keeps the mean and variance equal, but you get this piling up at zeros, and then the negative binomial allows the mean and the variance to be different, which happens when you have piling up in a long tail. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the distribution because in principle, it is amazingly cool that you can build a different model for the zero process and for the count process. So what are the predictors of never using drugs versus using drugs, and then having a different model for, well, if you use drugs, what are predictors of higher levels of use? In principle, that's really, really cool.
For sure.
In practice, it's sometimes like drawing blood from a turnip. Mm-hmm. You get into the animal farm as all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Remember that?
Yes.
What you're trying to do is separate some zeros from other zeros, and it pretty quickly becomes magical thinking.
Right. When is zero not zero?
So I got lucky on that one.
Well, solid answer. I will give you that one. Damn it.
Okay, acronym number 2.
You say that like you've been scribbling them down.
I have, of course I have.
You're plotting.
You know what I've done is I've picked ones that I can't answer myself.
Oh, great.
Now, I don't want to micromanage because you know me. I am not controlling. All right, stop making those noises. That's kind of annoying. I would suggest trying to begin to respond to it in less than 23 seconds time.
Okay, just
Now, do what you
pro
want.
tip. Thanks.
Okay, this is just...
I like how you don't know it's going to be pop quiz, and by the second round, you're giving instructions on how to do it better.
Dude,
That is so you. That's so you.
you know me, right? We've met.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready? I'm going to cue mine up.
All right.
Now, here's the thing is I'm going to say it, and then I will start my timer. That will give you like 1 second more that you could really, really use giving your last response.
All right. Whatever.
So I'm going to say it, and it starts.
All right.
MCMC.
Oh, dear God. Apologies to Roy Levy in advance, whatever comes out of my mouth.
5 seconds.
Markov chain Monte Carlo. It has 2 parts to it. There's the Markov chain part and the Monte Carlo part. The Monte Carlo part is sort of just a simulation process. The Markov chain part implies that things that we simulate are not independent, but each one depends on the last one. All right, so that's the foundation of the name. Imagine we have a really complicated model with all kinds of parameters, and there's a distribution space for those parameters. So a model with like 20 parameters, that space is multidimensional and heinously shaped. It's almost never this beautiful kumbaya multivariate normal. And so what we do is we want to sample so that we can make lots of guesses about what those parameters are until we flesh out a lot of that distribution. And we do that through a Markov chain Monte Carlo process. And then we get... Wow.
You are the world's worst clock manager. You took 8 seconds apologizing to Roy.
Well, it was obviously prescient.
Yeah. Maybe you should throw Roy a call. What is it, 5:30 in the morning where he is? We've done this before.
Do I get my mercy minute or what was it called?
How about a pity minute?
All right, a pity minute. Here's the way I think about it, which could be completely inaccurate, but imagine there's... It doesn't matter. So there's an asteroid out there, and we want to know things like temperature of the asteroid, the soil makeup, the nitrogen content. I don't know. I don't study asteroids.
Nobody cares about that. We want to know if it's going to hit the Earth and wipe us all out.
God, I hope so. And can it be within the next 30 seconds, please?
No, please, asteroids and MCMC. Go ahead.
And so we want to know about this. So what we do is we deploy like a Roomba. Do you know what a Roomba is?
Yes, it's a marital issue in our house because my wife worships the Roomba and I turn it off and hide it because it comes into my office and gets all my cables and everything all sucked up inside of it. But please, go on.
Right. So a Roomba is a robot vacuum thing that just moves in different directions. So imagine we deployed a Roomba to the asteroid and it starts moving around and it makes movements to the left, the right, front, back, all of that. And it sends back data like, oh, the average temperature here is this, or the average nitrogen content is this. But it's just sort of wandering around a particular area. And if we let it wander long enough, it'll probably send back enough data so that we can have a whole distribution for what we think might be average temperature of the asteroid or average nitrogen content of the soil or whatever. So it's doing this for lots of different parameters we're interested in, those averages. And that would take a really long time. So maybe we deploy 2 Roombas to the asteroid or 3 Roombas or 4 Roombas, and they're all moving around this asteroid. That's like having multiple chains coming in. One Roomba is like one chain and multiple Roombas is like multiple chains. And in the end, what we hope is that we're getting convergence on what the average temperature is for the asteroid or what the average nitrogen content is for the soil and so forth. And there are different ways that the Roombas move. There's like a Gibbs sampling kind of way or a Metropolis Hastings way. There are different things like that, but it's really just sort of about how the Roombas are moving and sending information back. So that's kind of how I think about MCMC. And if that's so freaking abstract, then again, I come back to what I started with. Apologies to Roy Levy.
Hi, this is Roy Levy at Arizona State University. On the whole, I actually think the Roomba explanation was not awful. Even better is the fact that you didn't call me at 5:30 in the morning to tell me about it.
When I woke up this morning, I did not know I would be learning about asteroids and interstellar Roombas. If NASA is looking for a Roomba to send to an asteroid, I have one that I can share.
I don't know where it is, honey. I have no idea.
Well, I'm a little disappointed in your response and the pity minute because it was better than I had hoped. Because I kind of picked that in hopes that you were just going to publicly flame out bad.
I had you at Roomba. All right, here we go. This is the last.
We only do 2.
No, you got one more.
We only do 2 on that.
No, we have always done at least 3.
Damn it.
So here we go with number 3, my friend. All right, so this last one is going to be, it's a softball. It's a beach ball, really. I am pitching you a beach ball, and you have a giant bat. You cannot screw this one up.
The Curran family rule that goes back to my dad. He was a historian. He taught high school history. He knew everything there was ever to know about World War II, and he would pull out the Trivial Pursuit card and sigh and say, this is such an easy one. And we had a rule that you couldn't do that. So you just broke my dead father's rule. So thank you for that.
Wasting no more time, EM, go.
Oh, you suck. EM stands for expectation and maximization, and it's a method for solving maximum likelihood. And a funny thing about maximum likelihood is people think there's just maximum likelihood and it's just solved. Maximum likelihood is a general technique, and there are many ways of obtaining solutions for that. You can get it in closed form for like a mean or a variance. All the stuff we do in SEM and other things, you do iteratively, and you use a thing that's sometimes called a numerical optimization. So things like Fisher scoring, Newton-Raphson, whatever. But sometimes you can't do that because of missing data or latent variables or mixtures. And so you use EM. Expectation step fills in missing data. You maximize it, and you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you get a solution. And it's a way of doing like mixture models, missing data, latent classes. I'm getting to hate Sean. Okay, that was a bit of a payback for MCMC. Because you know what? I would really love to go into much more technical details about this, but we're really out of time. So we should probably save that for later.
Oh, I think that a courtesy minute would be in order for you to just really parade around in all of your pedagogical splendor. Would you please regale us?
Okay, so let me get my statistical sock puppets. Ready?
Okay.
Hello, I'm expectation. Hi, expectation. I'm maximization. Hey, I got an idea. We got a model that's really hard to estimate. Oh, so hard. We could use Newton-Raphson. No, it won't work. How about this? I fill in all those little empty squares and you solve it. Oh, I can do that. Oh, I did it. Okay, very good. Oh, we can't do it one time. Better do it another time. Oh, I love this. I do it again. I do it again. I do it again. I do it again. We all done. Okay, bye-bye now.
What in the Muppet was that?
You know, if you're going to go down, just go down swinging.
Wow.
That's all I got to say.
Classic. So I'll tell you, I should probably know a little bit more about the EM algorithm. I mean, I know it governs a lot of the things that we do, but I don't know it all the way down to the nuts and bolts, right? So if someone said, why don't you just code up an EM algorithm? It would take me a while to try and figure out exactly what's going on under the hood.
I actually find it really, really cool because it's clever, and I just love anything that's just clever. Mm-hmm. Numerical optimization-based methods, they're sometimes called hill climbing, and so they're based on first derivatives. Some are. The more widely ones are second derivatives. If you've ever gotten that wicked error of the Hessian matrix cannot be inverted, the Hessian matrix is a matrix of partial derivatives, and it measures curvature, but there are times those just don't work. This came out I'd have to look it up, but mid-late 80s, and Liang and Zager is the citation that comes to mind, but lots of people have contributed to this. Mm-hmm. It's another Coors Light Green Day solution, is you have these sparse data matrices, and so you just fill them in.
On my own, here we go.
you just use that as given and you compute the likelihood. And then you take the parameters, update the expectation, and then you do the maximization. It's just really, really clever. The problem is it can be really slow and it is super susceptible to local solutions. So this was a poke in the eye in early days of growth mixture models where you would get local solutions. Bauer helped contribute to that, where now it's standard. You do 1,000 or 2,000 random start values.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird, but you take the modal likelihood. But all of that was clear from my sock puppet.
Yeah. Yeah. We can just cut the rest.
Okay, buddy. I have one that I am not going to pronounce phonetically for reasons that will become apparent, but I am going to spell it out. I'm going to queue up 60 seconds. Again, not micromanaging at all. I'd start responding right away. That's just my recommendation.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Let me get my sock puppets. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
DIC.
I'm sorry. I can't. I needed that time. Okay. Deviance information criterion. So it is an information criterion measure. Like there's the AIC, the BIC, there's the DIC. And the thing about the DIC is that it's much more for like Bayesian model selection. AIC and BIC assumes that you have maximized some likelihood. And when we're using MCMC, we haven't really maximized the likelihood. We've wandered this surface and we've come up with average values. So what the DIC is built up of two parts, like the other things are. There is the first part that has to do with the fit, and then there's a second part that has to do with the number of parameters, which is like the complexity. But the first part, instead of being like a -2 log likelihood, it is a likelihood information. It is likelihood information that is at those averages that you've come up with. And then the penalty is...
Okay, this is the third time, folks, that he has looked shocked.
I think that we used to do more than a minute.
Just to clarify, you set this entire thing up.
I don't recall it that way.
So here I'm going to hold up. I actually gave you 2 extra seconds.
Did you?
And I didn't start it for 2 seconds because you were laughing.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that in a second.
I think it's irrelevant whether we gave more time.
Okay, fine. I'm going to take, not a courtesy minute, but I'm just going to finish up by saying, well, I'm going to say two things, actually. One is that we're accustomed to that penalty having to do with the number of parameters that a model has, but the penalty in the DIC has to do with what's sometimes called the number of effective parameters. And when you have prior distributions on things, the number of effective parameters can be crazy. So the index is in the spirit of the other things, but its two parts are a little bit different. But I am going to tell you, I think about the DIC often, and it has absolutely nothing to do with statistics. And I am looking at you right now, and I have a feeling you know exactly what I am talking about.
So, folks, every generation has their event. Where were you when FDR died? Where were you when JFK was shot? Where were you when the Challenger exploded? And our generation of quantitative methodologists are where were you during the DIC talk?
That's exactly right. Okay, good. This doesn't surprise me that your brain is exactly in the same place. I want to tell this story as best we can, but let me first preface it with, we've always tried to be reasonably family-friendly on this show. Not always highbrow, but I will...
We separate those. Family-friendly and juvenile are two completely different things.
Yes.
Now, either of us could tell this story because we were both in the room.
In the room.
Because I unfairly ambushed you with this, I'm going to let you tell the story.
Okay.
But because we aspire to be family friendly, we leave it to the adults to phonetically pronounce DIC.
Okay.
Because the person at the podium did pronounce the word phonetically. So go ahead and share with people what it was like to be in the room during the DIC talk.
So this whole talk was about the DIC, and I started jotting down some of the quotable quotes that occurred. And I have them on my phone still.
Can I throw in a little color commentary as you go along?
Please.
You've got a picture in your mind's eye, 150 people, and not only some of the luminaries in quantitative methodology, but there were people there who were at the highest levels of university administration.
Yes. Again, whenever I say DIC, please substitute the phonetic version of it. The person leads with, I'm really excited about DIC. I'm sitting toward the back of the room. I can actually see the back of Patrick's head a little bit farther up, and I can see the back of everybody's head there. There's this moment where, you know, when you think something is amusing, but you don't know if other people do, you turn your head just a little bit to one side and see if you catch someone's eye. I'm in the back of the room and I see people turning their heads and I'm thinking, okay, it's not just me here. Another one on my list is DIC can be too big, but never too small. And you see people starting to sort of put their heads into their hands just a little bit as a person keeps talking. I don't know if there were any that you remember specifically.
I did not write them down, so I'm paraphrasing, but it's very, very close. The presenter said, you cannot judge the size of a DIC by itself. You can only determine the size by comparing multiple DICs. In practice, you estimate multiple models. You arrange the DIC from largest to smallest, and the smallest DIC has the best fit.
That's very accurate.
But that still was not what brought down the house.
No, it's true. The best was when someone in the audience asked a question. The person is referring to a slide that had been up and said, will you go back and show your DIC again? Person didn't say the acronym, right? Are you worried about shrinkage? And so many of the leaders of our field put their heads down on the desks in front of them, and their whole bodies were convulsing. And I'm sitting in the back with my head in my hands, watching these waves of quivering scholars here as this very serious conversation is going on. And as I recall you, my friend...
Oh, I walked out. I was sitting next to Bauer. And before the person asked the question, I leaned over and whispered, one more and I'm out. When that question came, I almost peed myself. And I stood up and walked out. And as I'm walking out, feeling like a child of a person, I walk by a colleague of ours who is at the highest level of administration in a major university. And she had tears coming down her eyes. And that made everything okay for me.
Yes, yes, it did. So thank you very much to our listeners for tolerating that rare deviation, that rare deviance, if I may say, into the juvenile.
All right, this is going into my leather-bound book of things for which I will wreak vengeance in some future date. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. These things are terribly silly, and we appreciate your patience with us. Take care, and we will talk to you next time.
All right, thanks, everybody. See ya.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. You can subscribe to Quantitude on Apple, Spotify, Google, or 1,000 other totally sketchy podcast hosting sites, and please leave us a review. You can also follow us on Twitter, X, or Blue Sky. We are at QuantitudePod. And check out our webpage at quantitudepod.org for searchable playlists, show notes, a syllabus that organizes episodes under class topic, and other cool stuff. Finally, instead of brutally ambushing your friend with unexpected stats questions, happily astonish them with awesome Quantitude-themed merch at redbubble.com. where all proceeds from non-bootleg authorized products go to donors choose to support low-income schools. You have been listening to Quantitude, an acronym so profane we can't afford the bandwidth to bleep it all out. As a special treat to Quantitude listeners, this week's sponsors will be presented by the Statistical Sock Puppets. Hey, why the hell are we doing this? I don't know. He only uses us when he doesn't know what he's talking about. Isn't that why he uses us all the time? Ha! You got that right. I don't have any ideas for sponsors. Do you? I don't know. Maybe other acronyms that spell out inappropriate things. That seems predictable and derivative. Yeah. Well, how about more DIC jokes? That was bad enough as it was in the episode. Oh, maybe something with that ridiculous talking lemur. What? And annoy people with strange voices? No way. I got nothing. Me either. S'alright? S'alright. This is most definitely not NPR.